Tuesday night Kreuger show. We're live from Scottsdale, Arizona, and Raj is in the house in his regular Tuesday spot. As I always like to say, let's go. Let's go. And fire up the band. There we go. Oh, yeah. Oh. Woo. Welcome to the Kreuger show, everybody. Tuesday night. Hope everybody's having a great day today. Raj is still a little under the weather, but he's gutting it out. He's gutting it out. It's March 4th, 2025. I'm here in Scottsdale, Arizona. We've been here all week covering Giants baseball, watching some Cactus League, playing some golf, spending some time with my sons, and really enjoying ourselves. And we like to thank our sponsors. Of course, we're always brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Go say hi to Damon and Mary, get some brisket chili. Tell them the Kreuger sent you. I'm loving Pig and a Pickle, and we always love Pig and a Pickle. But our spring training trip is here, and the Kreuger show is on the road, and the trip is made possible by our friends at Claw Daddy Arcades, the ultimate destination for claw machine gaming and prize play. 3 locations down in Southern California, plus spots in Fresno and Modesto, and a brand new location coming soon to the Bay Area. Claw Daddy Arcades is bringing family-friendly fun to communities across California, whether you're a kid or just a kid at heart. Claw Daddy's prize pack machines are guaranteed to bring excitement and friendly competition. You can follow them on Instagram at claw_daddy_arcades and find a location near you. And when you stop by, tell them that Larry Kreuger sent you. Big thanks to Claw Daddy Arcades for supporting the Kreuger show's trip to Scottsdale. And the show is sponsored by LearnKey Upskill Academy, an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in about 6 months or less, whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, or another high demand field. They offer over 30 certification programs to help you take that next step in your career. Guys, if you're stagnating, if you're sitting there and you're doing your job, you don't love it, this is going to help you. They've been in business for 37 years. They currently are working with over 200,000 students. They place over hundreds of students into well-paying or good-paying jobs each and every calendar year, and they're fantastic. LearnKey's Upskill Academy. If they can help you, if we can help you, we want to. And the links are in the description to both. All right, let's talk some Niners. Big day today in 49er land. And why don't we start with Raj's basically Twitter post from earlier today, which basically, just for those who didn't see it, you can go to RSF 49ers and you'll see it. The 49ers starting offer for quarterback Brock Purdy's contract extension is reportedly $45 million per year. This is according to Jason La Canfora. Now, this, Raj, comes on the heels of Adam Schefter reporting that, the Niners are up against it financially and have a cash flow issue. And according to Schefter's arguing that the Niners can't pay Brock Purdy top of the market money because they're hurting financially and in cash flow ways. And if you said, well, where's this whole thing at? Brock Purdy's scheduled to make $5.1 million this year. They can place a franchise tag on him next year for $41 million. They can place a franchise tag on him the following year for $51 million. So essentially, he's locked up for the next, 2-3 years at $97 million. But it sounds like they're offering $45 million per year. And maybe it's $45 million in the first year, $50 million in the second year, $55 million in the third year. But I'm thinking it's probably a 3-year deal. It could be $45 million straight across, but either way, let's just say it's 50. 3 years, 150 is better than 3 years at 92. So I got to think that if there's a deal to be had here, that Purdy and the 49ers will come to some kind of an agreement. But basically Schefter's arguing the Niners can't pay Purdy top of the scale money, $60+ million. And then Schefter said it's not going to be that Purdy's contract numbers are not going to be quite as high as most people think they are. I'll ask you this, Raj. I mean, there's a lot of angles on this. Are the 49ers, in your opinion, using their financial cash flow issues and their financial moves as kind of a leverage play to try to not pay Brock Purdy, top of the scale money? And do you think this thing gets done? And I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know what it seems like they're playing with fire here. They have no plan B. They have no second quarterback. They have no, you know what? If Brock doesn't do it, we're going to this guy. I mean, this sounds like a mess. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot to be said here. There's a couple different opinions you can have. And honestly, $45 million, that's the rumor right now. Jason Lockhan Frontora, he's made a lot of rumors that have hit. He's made a lot of rumors that have been stupid, right? But this is the first time we've actually heard some type of, number of what the 49ers may have offered him. And I don't think it's horrible. I think it's a good starting number. You knew the Niners were going to come in low. They weren't coming in at $55 million on their initial offer. They're going to work it way up. That's how the Niners do. Now, it does have the potential to maybe become an issue. Like if Brock Purdy's camp's like, yo, that's too low. We want at least 50 or 55. Then we might have a problem. But this is the 49ers' first offer that we've heard. And, you say, hey, this is what we got. And then you go and negotiate. It's negotiation. Brock Purdy's camp's going to say, well, we want this. So they're going to go spit ball between each other and give each other's, numbers. But the thing that really gets me is, okay, it's $45 million. Maybe it's 3 years. The Niners have all the leverage. They could say, all right, if you don't want it, we'll pay you $5 million. What is he going to do? Hold out, lose all his money? He's making $5 million this year. So if he holds out, he's probably going to lose all his money. But it sucks for the 49ers. They won't have a quarterback. So I don't think they're going to put themselves in that deep of a hole where they're like screwed quarterback-wise. But they can tag them next year, tag them the next year, like you said, as Schefter said. But the thing that's interesting to me is now there's like Schefter hinted at it. It seems like there might be a little bit of a cash problem and a money problem, because even John Lynch said last week, we got to stop spending so much money. And they got rid of Brandon or Debo. There's rumors that, Brandon Aiyuk's on the trade market. The 49ers, I think, are starting to say, hey, man, maybe we can't strap ourselves with all these crazy contracts, and we got to be a little bit smarter. So I think that's what we're seeing here. $45 million is a good opener. Let's see where it goes. But I think the 49ers have leverage in this situation because, hey, at the end of the day, you don't want 45, Brock? I don't know if any other team's going to give you more than 45 right now.
Well, and of course, the other big story of the day is that, and there were big stories today. One, that Adam Schefter went on the Pat McAfee show and said the Niners will take trade offers on just about anybody.
Yeah.
And he said if there's a team willing to take on Brandon Aiyuk's contract, I'm sure they would listen. You heard John Lynch talking about this last week. He was asked about Brandon Aiyuk, his trade, the trade rumors surrounding him. And instead of saying, hey, I mean, look, Raj, let's be straight here. The Niners just signed this guy to a 4-year, $120 million contract last year. We're not even a year into this contract. It wasn't even a full calendar year. They signed this guy. So when somebody asks you less than a calendar year after you sign a guy to a 4-year, $120 million deal, if that guy is going to be traded and the rumors of other teams showing interest, isn't the answer, hey, guys, that's our guy. We love him. He ain't going anywhere. They can call all day and all night, but guess what? He's a 49er and he's going to be a 49er. That puts everything to bed. That's not what John Lynch said. John Lynch went into another category of dialogue about cash spending and how the Niners need to hit a reset, and that how there could be some positive that comes out of this. Like, what's this? To me, I read that as there could be some positive that come out of the 49ers trading Brandon Aiyuk away for pennies on the dollar in draft pick compensation, at least you're getting draft pick compensation if a team's willing to take on the player, and you're getting younger and cheaper. So that to me, and it's like, I think if there's anything that I've learned about John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they'll tell you the truth if you ask them the right questions and you listen to the answers. Kyle Shanahan will tell you the truth. John Lynch will tell you the truth. Tim Kawakami at the end of the year presser asked John a very pointed question. What's going on with Debo? What's his future in San Francisco? I think was the question. And John said, hey, look, we're not in the business of giving away good football players. So he basically put down the gauntlet right there. We will not be cutting Debo Samuel. And then a million people had their takes with, the best thing for the Niners is to cut Debo. So they'll designate him on a June 1st release, and they're not going to trade him. They're not going to take that kind of cap hit, Kreuger, you idiot, and all that. And I'm like, hey, look, John Lynch told us they weren't giving him away. So John Lynch is a smart guy. He went to Stanford. He didn't just volunteer that out of the blue. And the last thing these guys wanted to have to do is be like, basically like, well, we said it then, but we don't mean it anymore. So I took him at face value. And if you took him at face value on the Debo thing, you were on the right side of what they were going to do with Debo. They were going to trade him, not cut him. And if you take John Lynch at his word, he sounds like, to me, Raj, that he is getting ready to trade Brandon Aiyuk to a wide receiver needy team for probably either a player or a pick or two, maybe three, who knows? I don't know what he can get, but I think it's going to be a player and or a pick on day 3. I don't think it's going to be an overwhelming return. I don't think the 49ers need an overwhelming return to get what they want out of this deal. They want to get out from the big money, save Jed some bucks, move on from Aiyuk, and hit a reset in a year where they may pay Brock $100 million guaranteed. If you're cash poor, you're going to have to say goodbye to maybe some key 49ers and maybe Aiyuk. My read is that they're going to trade him. What was your read?
I think they're going to trade him too. I think at this point they're kind of want to wipe their hands clean. And the reason I say that is exactly what you said. John Lynch kind of hinted they need to get younger. They need to get rid of all this cash spending. I think they really are upset that they made that contract last year. I know there was a reporter, Tim Kawakami, on his podcast a couple weeks ago. There was like a report saying that they've been angry since they made that deal. Like they just didn't think it was wise money, and then it really bit them. I remember the story, right? Jay Glazer says Kyle Shanahan runs down on the last hour, and he's like, no, we got to sign him. Give him the money. Give him the money. They were going to trade him. They were this close to trading him, Larry, last year. And then they did it. And now they probably regret that decision. And at this point, I don't think they care what they get. They just want to kind of wipe their hands clean of these situations. You know, Debo Samuel, I think John Lynch was 100% true when he told us he doesn't want to get rid of a player like that because he does believe he's a good player. But then Debo came and asked him, I want to trade. And now we found that out after the fact that, okay, you want to get traded, we're going to honor that. We're not going to hold you against your will. And that was a classy thing to do for John. And then Debo, he tweeted the other day, all love between John and Kyle. So sometimes I think it comes to a point where you just got to let the player go, let them do what they got to do. And I kind of feel the same with Brandon. I think he probably wants to go. I mean, I don't know. He's posting cryptic messages or whatever the case is. But I really do think they're going to trade Brandon Aiyuk because they want to get younger. That was the biggest takeaway I heard from John Lynch last week. He's like, look, we got to get younger because, yeah, you're going to sign Brock to a big contract. You're probably going to restructure a few deals, maybe Warner, maybe Nick Bosa's contract, Brock Purdy's deal. And the thing with the Brock Purdy's, you know, his number coming out today, maybe it's the agent that leaked that and said, hey, this is what we're getting. You know, it's a good leverage play if that's what the agent did, but there's a lot of dynamics here. I do think ultimately they're going to try to trade Brandon Aiyuk. And if a team throws them draft picks, like a 6th pick, 7th pick, 5th pick, whatever, they'll take it. You know, you said a wide receiver needy team. There's a team like the Patriots, the Raiders. There's so many teams that could just, they're desperate for a wide receiver. And the thing about Brandon Aiyuk, he probably won't play for half the season. So why are the 49ers going to throw all this money on him if they know he's not going to play half the season? So I think it makes sense for them to get rid of him.
I mean, it's funny. People talk about dead cap hits, but I mean, if a guy's not going to play, that's a dead cap hit too. You know what I mean? Because you're not getting anything out of the player, and that's essentially the Aiyuk situation this year. They might not get much out of him. Here is you reposted Aiyuk in New York City. It looks like on his IG post. I'm not nearly cool enough to try to read that. I'll just defer to you on that, Raj.
Okay.
Maybe you could read that to us, and maybe you could decipher what that means. Go ahead.
Okay, so this was Brandon Aiyuk's first post on Instagram of the season. So it's kind of important, right? So kind of a big deal. He hadn't posted anything. He finally posts on his Instagram. And this is what he said. He said, I'm going to tell you what it means after. He says, if Yeen worth 100 or better, then mad emoji. In another city, I'm icy. I ain't got none tucked. Hashtag PS. So what the hell does that mean? Everybody's like, what does that mean? It is a rap lyric from SG. There's a song that he wrote, and that's the rap lyrics in the song. So from what I've been able to determine, this is what they're saying. He says, if you ain't worth 100 million or better, shut the F up in another city, New York City. I don't have anything tucked. His jewelry's not tucked in. It's out for the open because he's not afraid of getting robbed in the city. That's what it means. That's what he's saying. He ain't afraid to be robbed in the city. He got a big jewelry, the ice hanging, and he's got 100 million. He's chilling.
Is he chilling? Is he chilling when he wants to stay? He's chilling and he wants to go. He's chilling and he doesn't care. Exactly. What's the status of his chilling? Do you like the follow up there?
He just chilling. It's the East Coast. He's vibing.
What if I said that to Aiyuk? Excuse me, Mr. Aiyuk, what would you say is the source of your chilling?
What's the source of your chilling? It's just.
What's the source of your chilling?
Then I don't know what his answer would be.
Why are you so chilling and why you got everything tucked? Or he's got nothing tucked. Why has he got nothing tucked?
He's got the ice hanging out because he's not afraid to get robbed.
There you go. He fears no man.
That's it. He fears no man. I like it. There you go.
What do you make of the story that the Niners might be willing to listen on everybody? Because, okay, if we talk about Aiyuk, if we talk about Debo, I think you can easily, like lots of people will say, they should have got rid of Debo last year. And it sounds like such a smart take. They probably should have traded Aiyuk last year. Well, now that the guy's blown out his knee, it sounds like a smart take. So if that is a smart take, then shouldn't the Niners trade George Kittle? He's going on 31. He says he wants to be a Niner for life. Is he going to get better? Is he going to get worse from here? He's going to get worse. If you traded Kittle, you might get a Tyreek Hill type package. Tyreek Hill fetched a first, a second, 2 fourths, and a 6. They got 5 picks for Tyreek, including a 1 and a 2. If it was smart to get off of Debo last year, if it was smart to get off of Aiyuk last year, then wouldn't it be smart to get off of Kittle coming off of a great year when everybody wants him, when he's 31, when you're going to hit a financial reset and you're going to start to surround your quarterback with new weapons? I bring this up because somebody really close to the 49ers, basically sent this to me today saying, I think they ought to trade Kittle, get a Tyreek Hill package, draft Tyler Warren at 11, and start their rebuild that way and get a little bit more realistic. We know how they always want to run it back and they're wed to their stars, but they were wed to Debo, they were wed to Aiyuk, and now they're dying to get off. If they pay Kittle a gigantic sum of money, something tells me that may not age well over time. I mean, he's probably got one more good year, one more top tier year, maybe 2 more real good years, and then maybe he plays 3 years more total. I don't think he's got a ton left. I mean, things go quick in the NFL. What do you think, Raj? I mean, I know we all love Kittle. And all the fans are like, no. But if it was smart to move Debo and Aiyuk last year and they didn't, wouldn't trading Kittle kind of, rectify that past mistake. I mean, other people have said trade Trent, trade Bosa. I mean, I've heard it all today. But if the reports that Schefter have put, the report is true, and they're willing to trade anybody because they're in bad. And what happened to the Niners that they suddenly became this? They're in sudden terrible cash flow situation. What do you know about this, Raj?
Yeah, no, good question. And I see the vision. I get it. They're willing to trade anybody. You get rid of Kittle. He's aging. We said this about Debo last year. I get where you're coming from, but trading Kittle is blasphemous, Larry. He's got to be a Niner for life. There's a few players that just have to be a Niner for life. Like Joe Staley was one of them. If George Kittle gets traded, I'm going to tell you, like, I know there's a great tight end in the draft. There's a good tight end. The Niners have had such a hard time finding a tight end since George Kittle did it. Like a second guy, the heir to, it would be terrible. I think the fans would be pissed. I think the players would be pissed. He's probably the heart and soul of this clubhouse. Like he's one of the leaders. It would be a devastating locker room. You trade away George Kittle. The message that sends to this locker room is crazy. I couldn't see it. I mean, I get where you're coming from. You upgrade, you build some, young players on this team. I get it, but you trade George Kittle, man. Oh my God, the heads will be flying all over Ninerland. And I think Kittle's a little different. He takes care of himself. He does get hurt every once in a while. He plays very physical. But over course of a season, he puts up some unbelievable years. Him and Brock Purdy have this great chemistry. He's finally found a guy that can, harness his abilities. He's having some of his best career years, and he's important for the blocking. I get that you can get another tight end that could be a good weapon, but I don't know they can do everything that George Kittle can do. So I'd be sick if they trade away George Kittle. This is the way I see it. If they trade away George Kittle, it'll be a monumental mistake. It'll be as big of a mistake as when they trade away DeForest Buckner. I think it's that big of an impact if you trade away George Kittle, and I just think you can't do it. There's just so many ramifications.
You and I have talked about a lot of different players for a number of years on this thing, and the bottom line is, I don't know how you view it, but I really believe, there's bad players, there's good players, there's great players, and then there are tone setters. And tone setters have their own category. They have a unique power to, just by their presence and their attitude about their job, change the feeling in the room. It sounds hokey, but it's true. On this team, Dre Greenlaw is that guy on defense, and George Kittle is that guy on offense. I'm not saying they're the best players on the team. I'm just saying they're the tone setters. Guys look at them as the tone setters. So, yeah, I think if you lose the same reason I'd like to keep Kittle is the same reason I'd like to keep Greenlaw.
Yeah.
I think they're tone setters, and I think it's vitally important that you have a standard that you play at on both sides of the ball, and those guys set that standard. So I don't want to see either of them moved. Mark Graves in the chat says, like and subscribe, peeps. It was a pleasure meeting you today, Larry, Kevin, and Ben. Yeah, Mark, we met Mark out in Peoria. He was there with Danny and Los, and we got a chance to watch some Padre Giants baseball for a few innings. And, I'm sitting there with my sons and my friends, and it's sunny and it's beautiful, and it was just glorious, man. So, Mark, great to see you, brother. And I'm sorry we didn't have a chance to chat it up more, but it was really cool to meet you face to face and chop it up and talk some Giants ball. Matthew Berry. Now, Matthew Berry is the fantasy guy on NBC, but he is based in D.C., and sometimes he's got some decent NFL connections. He says, I hear that Purdy and the 49ers are still fairly far apart in contract extension talks. So, I mean, here's the thing about this that makes me super nervous. I mean, I'll be totally honest about this. I am super nervous about this. I just think that there's no doubt that that you have to get this quarterback signed. I mean, you got to get this thing done. You got no chance this year. If Brock Purdy holds out, no chance at all. You got to get this thing done. But you know what? If you believe the reports that are out there, and I do, which the Jet is less than thrilled with the Aiyuk deal, less than thrilled with the Debo extension, less than thrilled than what they paid for Nick Bosa, and maybe was staunchly against the Aiyuk extension. Well, guess what? If they think that John paid too much for Bosa, and John paid too much for Debo, and John got taken for Aiyuk, the last thing they're going to want to do is just give Brock Purdy some slam dunk deal. So the Niners may be in this like grind it mode. And we don't know what Kyle Strongen, the agent for Brock Purdy, is what his play is. But Brock, we do know Brock's his highest profile client. He's probably going to try to show the football world and the agent world, hey, look, it doesn't matter if you're not Drew Rosenhaus, you can get, a big time, deal done, even if you're not Tom Condon or Lee Steinberg. And that to me seems like two sides that are headed for a nightmare situation, because the Niners are like, we are not going to overpay. And Kyle Strongen's like, this is my guy. My guy's not going to take less. Now, I know Brock is easygoing and easy breezy and respectful, and he just wants, oh, shucks, I just want this thing to get done. And he doesn't come across like a hard, like he's going to ask for the moon. But he's probably not going to even speak in this thing. And it's going to be his agent who is, arguing for him. And you got guys like Steve Young and Joe Montana who are on record saying, hey, this guy's done enough. Pay this guy. So I don't know about you, Raj, but I think that the Niners are going to dig in deep trying to get a good deal on Purdy. And that's what that $45 million initial offer represents. And I think there's a chance that this thing doesn't get done. And then what? What is in your mind? Because you know what the old saying, expect the best, prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm expecting the best, which is the Niners and Purdy both realize the value of one another and get it done. And it gets done literally before draft day. And, he's there for OTAs and installation, all at training camp. And it's, the Niners have a great offseason. They vault themselves back into the Super Bowl mix, and they're running for, a trip to Santa Clara in the Super Bowl 60. But you also have to plan for this could be an utter fucking disaster. And Jed could be like, hey, John, I've given you big money, but you know what? I'm pulling back the financial reins because you won 6 goddamn games. Yeah. Sorry for the swearing. And at the same time, you could have Brock's agent saying, hey, my guy ain't taking less than $60 million. And what then? If the Niners are like hell-bent on getting a deal and Brock's agent's hell-bent on getting him a record-setting deal, what is your plan B? Because you have to have a plan B. So what is it? Is it Aaron Rodgers? Is it Cousins? I want to know. I want to know what should be, and I'd love to hear it in the chat from all you guys. What, if this thing gets ugly, what direction do the 49ers go? What is plan B at quarterback? Do they have a plan B, or are they just wed to plan A with no leverage to speak of?
That's a good question. I think that they're leaning towards a plan B if in case, but I think it's still early, and I think they're so bent on hell bent on making sure they get the Brock Purdy deal done. And I think it is going to get taken care of, and I think eventually it's going to, get settled. Right now, we know it's a low offer. I think eventually they'll figure it out. But in the case where if the agent becomes strong-handed and he's like, look, this is what we want, and it becomes that point, I think the Niners are going to say, well, screw it. We got to get a quarterback, and you can sit and hold out. He's on a $5 million contract, Larry. So I think the Niners are going to say, hey, look, we don't care. We'll go find someone. I think Kirk Cousins would probably be the guy because Kyle and Kirk have a thing. I think that would be the plan B. I really do. If it came down to that situation, it's probably Kirk Cousins. That's just the way it's probably going to end up. But I do think it'll get figured out. I don't see Brock, holding this out. He said he wants to get it done quick. It's his first extension ever. I think that'll take care of it. I don't know the agent. I don't know how he's going to act, but they could always be crazy. In these situations, we've seen agents come out and be like, holy smokes, George Kittle's agent, Nick Bosa's agent, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, oh, wow. When
DeForest Buckner's agent.
Yeah. When they get going, it's like, okay, player might be the nicest guy in the world, but it doesn't matter. It's the agent coming out and putting his, his hand out and say, look, this is what we want. Got to get what I can for my guy. Because the more they get for the guy, the more they get for themselves. So I don't know. I think if it does come down to that, it's probably going to be like a Kirk Cousins situation. It's interesting. I don't think it's going to get to that point. And honestly, overall, I know everybody's freaking out right now and people are worried. Oh my God, it is a little mini retool. You lost 6 games or you won 6 games last year. So you can't sit here and say that they're not retooling a little bit or rebuilding a little bit, but it's just a small one. I think they're going to get rid of players that are expensive, right? They got to cut these contracts. Juice is probably going to be a cap casualty. We know Hargrave is going to be one. I don't know if they bring back Greenlaw. Maybe, he's supposed to test the market. But I think when it's all said and done in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months, we're going to be very excited. I think we're going to be like, wow, what an offseason, what a free agency. I think they'll make some moves that we'll be happy. I think they'll make a good draft, and I think they'll be ready to roll. And they got a last place schedule. And the other thing, Larry, is if you have any season where you can experiment and cut players and, cut costs and stuff like that, it's this year. You got a last place roster. Maybe you can get enough young talent. Because one thing you've been saying, Larry, is go through the draft, build this roster, go get some good young players and build it through that way. Because then you get a cheap roster, players that can be starters. They're hungry. Look at the Rams last year. They went out. Everybody's like, oh, they're going to be terrible. They lost Aaron Donald. They lost this guy. They lost this guy. They went and they drafted a freaking stacked roster. And I was like, oh, wow, they're one of the best young teams in the league. So I think the Niners can get to that point. They just have to have a really good draft. They have to make smart decisions. It comes with the territory. When you win 6 games, Larry, you got to make some changes. And I think the Niners are doing that this year.
Here on the screen, I put the list of the spot track list of free agent quarterbacks. I mean, Kirk Cousins is going to be 36 years old, and he has lost his starting job. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go with Kirk Cousins. I don't want to go with an old guy. I really don't. I'm looking at this list. It's Gardner Minshew. No, he's not good enough. Tyrod Taylor, no. Sam Darnold, no. Jacoby Brissett, no. Marcus Mariota, no. Mitchell Trubisky, no. Now, Drew Lock is interesting to me. He's 27. He played well at the end of the year. He's got a pretty big arm. He's 6'4", 220. He's got good size. He'd be on my short list. Flacco would be interesting, but he's old. I mean, he's 40. He's 40 years old. Jameis, no, I would say. I mean, he's got talent. There's no question. He's got talent. I don't know if he's a starting quarterback. Carson Wentz is 31. Jimmy Garoppolo, no. Mason Rudolph, no. Easton Stick, no. Dobbs, no. Josh Johnson, hell no. Tyler Huntley, no. Nathan Peterman, no. Kyle Allen, no. John Walford, no. Russell Wilson. Well, what do you think of Russell Wilson? If the whole thing blows up and Purdy's agent and the Niners are at some stalemate and they're staring at each other, you want Russell Wilson? He's 35.
I mean, if it gets to that point, if we're having this conversation, I'm not going to hate the idea. At that point, you're desperate.
I mean, you're desperate.
Yeah.
You are desperate. I mean, there's no question you're desperate.
If it gets to that point, Larry, they're desperate. I don't think it's getting to that point.
I think Kirk Cousins is pretty desperate. There's also Zach Wilson.
Oh, God.
There's Trey Lance. You can go back to Trey Lance.
Come on.
Jarrett Stidham. Justin Fields. Raj. Mac Jones. There's got to be a plan B. You can't have no plan B. That's how you pay through the nose. You gotta have a pivot. I mean, what if you're the Niners and you're like, hey, we like Brock Purdy, but you know what? Nobody in the league is going to pay this guy north of $60 million a year. And what if Kyle Strongen's like, hey, man, he's the latest quarterback to sign. You pay him 61. Pay him $61 million. At that point, if you don't want to do that, if you're Jed and Parag and your new mantra is fiscal responsibility, you're really going to pay a quarterback that you think is worth 45, 60, 65?
Not going to do
Probably not. Probably not. So my wonder is who would be the pivot? Is it a veteran? Rodgers, Cousins, Russell? Is it a kid? Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. As I said, I kind of like Drew Lock. I liked Justin Fields, Raj, coming into this last year. And then I watched Justin Fields in a couple games where I bet the Steelers, and he is a circus in the red zone.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't throw touchdowns in the red zone. He doesn't see the windows open fast enough, and by the time the ball's coming, he holds the ball for too long. I mean, Justin Fields runs 4.4 flat. He's 6'2". He's 220 pounds. He's a good kid, but guess what? If you don't process what you see, you can't throw touchdowns in the red zone. You can't throw with anticipation. That means your receivers just have to totally win, and they have to get wide freaking open, and then you have to get it to them. So I hate to say it, but I think it's probably a decision. There's Daniel Jones.
Mhm.
There's Russell Wilson. There's, gosh, it's really bad. It's a really bad list.
Yeah,
It's Carson Wentz. I'll say this. I'd probably be choosing between Mac Jones, who I don't want to go with because he has no mobility.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco, who I don't want to go with because he's 40. Or Drew Lock. I might go Drew Lock. I mean, I maybe Zach Wilson. Okay, so here's the other thing. Somebody sent me a thing this week and said, "Hey, what do you think of if things blow up with the Brock Purdy situation, getting back on the rookie deal and trading the 11th pick and Purdy in a package to Tennessee and going all in on Cam Ward?" And then you have the best rookie quarterback. You got a quarterback on a rookie deal. It all starts fresh and new, and you have a cheap quarterback again at the blink of an eye. Suddenly you have Cam Ward, who I think is far and away the best quarterback in this draft. Some people think Jackson Dart's going to be good. To me, the only three quarterbacks in the draft that I really feel good about: Cam Ward on day one, a little bit of Kyle McCord from Syracuse who started out at Ohio State, but I really kind of feel better about Riley Leonard and Brady Cook and Cam Ward. I like Brady Cook. He had a great combine. He's very fast. I like Riley Leonard. He's kind of a gamer. I love the way he threw at Indy. He's got a good enough arm. All these people are like, Riley Leonard's got a pop gun arm. That's a bunch of garbage. Riley Leonard led them into the national championship game, and he's got enough of an arm. He's got requisite arm talent. He's a real good runner. But what if you could get a Cam Ward? Would you? I mean, if you want to pay Brock Purdy $45 million, and he wants to be paid $60 million, and I'm not saying that I have sources that say that, but if that's the case, that's kind of a stalemate, is it not? That's kind of an impasse. I don't know that you can work that out. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, the thought of the 49ers trading up to take a quarterback in the first round again does not sit well with me. I know Cam Ward could be a good quarterback, whatever. There's Shador maybe, but come on, Larry. They just went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. The team to trade away draft picks to go get a young quarterback and develop them. I just don't think that's it. I think they're going to pay Brock. I think they're going to figure it out. I think everybody's just like really scared now because they saw the number. Oh, they're lowballing him. I think the real big thing of it is it's just the initial offer. I think people are worried too much of the number, and I think this will get taken care of. If the 49ers trade away their draft picks to go get a quarterback again, the PTSD that will be upon this fan base, Larry, will be monumental. Come on, man. And then you mentioned Trey Lance in there like twice. Come on. If they go and get Trey Lance and you run it back with him and you don't pay Brock Purdy, this team deserves to lose every game next year. Come on. They can't be doing that.
I got this one here on the chat from Red Sox 04. Larry, you're on vacation. You should go to a gentleman's club instead of streaming. Bro, dude, I mean, I'll say this. I had a fake ID from like age 15 on. I was done with strip clubs before I even got to college. Seriously. I mean, I grew up in San Francisco. I've been to the Garden of Eden. I've been to Big Al's. I've been to Pandora's Box. 3 drink minimum, all drink $7.95. Tip your waitresses. Would you like a bottle? Would you like to go to the champagne room, sir? I've been to the champagne room. Once you've been, I'm 55 at this point. You couldn't catch me dead in those places. Plus, my wife would kill me if I went to them. I mean, she'd be very upset. Even though it would mean nothing. All right, let's go. Let's hit some supers, and then we got a couple more thoughts. Man Devil 74. Kreuger, the disrespect Purdy's been getting from 49er fans is insane to me. Really got to stop calling ourselves the faithful. Yeah, there's just a lot of people that don't like Brock. There's a lot of people that are just, I had a guy tonight on KMBR who was like, he's garbage. I'm like, and somebody else, if Dan Campbell didn't go for it 2 times on 4th down, and if Green Bay didn't, we can play this if game. If my grandfather didn't have nuts, he'd be my grandmother. I mean, come on, what are we doing? If. Screw your ifs. They beat Green Bay. They beat Detroit. They went to the Super Bowl. That's what actually happened. All right. And you're going to sit there and say you don't want to pay this guy because you just feel like there's limited upside. If you got somebody better, go to him. If you don't, you better take care of your guy. Space Cowboy says, won't the Yorks make $9 billion selling 10%? No, $900 million. The team is estimated, the franchise value is worth $9 billion. They want to sell off 10%. They're looking for a $900 million cash injection. And I've been told it's about probate and about, kind of the family and this and that they're not going to sell the team. They're not on, in any kind of rough financial patch. They've paid out a lot of bonus money in recent years to extend players that they have. And Jed's pushing back because, hey, they won 6 freaking games, and it's like, hey, how about you care about my money as much as, if we're only going to win 6 games, take care of my cash. I'm sure that's what he's saying. And I'll say this, though. If it becomes this thing where, it's all about the money, and that you're never going to win that way, because there's a couple sportsmen out there who run NFL teams, and even though there's a cap sport, you're going to have to fight and claw and really contend for top free agents, and it's not going to be like, oh, well, you can just stop spending. So I think it's this idea that they may want to move off of Aiyuk after moving off of Debo is not that they don't want to spend, they just don't want to spend on those guys. I mean, that was my read. Rick James says, have we stooped so low to trade broken players? Plus Debo had to go 4th. Cool, but 5th, I'll take for sure. BA is a low 6th and below. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's stooping low to trade broken players. It's business, and you're looking to get out from underneath a commitment, and that's what I guess. I mean, and Raj, let me ask you this: if my guess is right, and John Lynch is on the verge of trading Brandon Aiyuk for a paltry sum or an unimpressive collection of day 3 picks, what's the reaction of the fan base going to be?
I think they'd be okay. I think
really.
I think initially they'd be like, "Oh my God, what a bum!" The contract. I think they'd be like, "What a bust contract." They'd be upset at first, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they did." But I think ultimately, when the dust settles, they'd be okay. I think like, "Oh well, you know what? He wasn't gonna play," and I think the way he's acted is probably why they'd be okay, because the post today, like, it just seems like he's kind of immature. Like, it just seems like he doesn't care about the team sometimes. You know what I mean? Like the vibe you get from him. I think because of the way his actions have been, I think people would be okay with it. I think initially it'd be like, "Oh my God, the Niners are stupid. You should never have signed." That'll be the sentiment. It'll be, people will say, "You should never have signed him in the first place. Should have traded him before. You would have got more picks." But I think ultimately they would have been like, "You know what? We're better off without him." I think that's what the fans will say eventually.
I think they're going to be upset, because look how many people were upset about Debo, and now you're going to get rid of Debo and Aiyuk. And I think the Aiyuk price tag coming back in trade, I mean, we'll see, but I think it's going to be low. I think it's going to be, a player and a couple day 3 picks, and we'll see. We'll see what kind of reaction. I think there's going to be a lot of upset people. Nees says, feels like they're trying to change perception ahead of Brock's deal, that if you hold out, they'll eventually cave every single time. Debo, Aiyuk, Bosa, Trent, CMC, etc. Yeah. But that's a bad time you're going to draw a stupid line in the sand on your quarterback and sabotage your season. Genius. You saved money. John Muniz says, so if the team is cash strapped, is this a rebuild year? Also, if it is a rebuild year and they suck, how does that affect Kyle and John's future? Yeah, I mean, doesn't it seem like there's a little bit of a disconnect here? It's like Lynch. Okay, so I think in the eyes of some Niner content creators, Lynch and Shanahan are on the hot seat. But those people are effed up and they're wrong. And those guys are never been on the hot seat. So I think that if your premise is that John and Jed are on the hot seat, and now if they take a step back and have a rebuild year, a transition year, that, this is their go year. And if they don't do well, they're fired at the end of the year. See, I understand why you would think that, but I think that they're going to, John's going to take care of Jed's cash, and then Jed's going to take care of John and Kyle's future. And what I mean by that is I don't think they're not lifetime contracts or anything, but I think Jed's going to go forward with John and Kyle, and they won't be on the hot seat, but only if he divests himself and the team of some of these big, cumbersome, ugly contracts, i.e. Brandon Aiyuk's. So, I think if they keep spending, they're number 2 in spending, according to John, and their entire regime here. If they keep spending like drunken sailors, Jed probably gets disenchanted with them and runs them out at some point. But if they play nice with Jed and are willing to sell off of an Aiyuk or two to get the books more in line, I think Jed probably gives them a few years. I especially based on their success. That's my read. I don't think they're on the hot seat.
I don't think they are now, but things can change in a minute. If they have another 6-win season, Larry, and this offseason doesn't go the way they want, they just fired another set of coaches. They got, Robert Salah. Things are on the up and up. They're supposed to have a last place schedule. Obviously they're going to pay the quarterback. If they have another bad season, I think that things can change. I don't think they are now, but I think there's an onus. I think there's a fire for them. There's a spark that I think the message is you guys need to get back to the playoffs, because last year was an embarrassment. The next season, we're hosting the Super Bowl. We expect to be there. So I wouldn't say it's a hot seat, but I think that there's like pressure. There's a lot of pressure on this team to let's get back. You guys were a winning franchise, 4 NFC, you went to all the NFC championships, 2 Super Bowls, all that stuff. That's nice. Let's get back to it. Now, if you can't, there might be some repercussions there.
Tez 242 says Russ can do everything Purdy does for a quarter of the price. I don't know about that. I think Russ used to be able to do everything Purdy can do. I don't think Russ gets away like that anymore. I don't see the same escapability. I will say this though, I'm a big Russell Wilson fan.
It sounds like it.
Huge Russell Wilson fan.
Mm-hmm.
To me, Russell Wilson has always reminded me of Joe Montana. I mean, he's such a great leader. He's such a great quarterback. I know they haven't had the run game. He went to Denver and he struggled, and Pittsburgh and this and that. But I am a believer in Russell Wilson as a person. So I wouldn't have any problem at all if they wanted to go to Russell Wilson, because I really think Russell Wilson is a great guy. I mean, I'll say this. I talked to Russell Wilson in the locker room a couple times, and they were a couple of the more professional exchanges I've ever had with anybody. I mean, he's just really solid. He's just a really solid guy. I think. Now I know there's people that, he's this and he's a diva, and him and his wife, and they're what? Who cares? I personally, I mean, I evaluate him as a football player, not his personal situation. Uncle Salty says, Larry, will the Niners take a fellow Wildcat? I didn't realize that. Is Teddy Buchanan a San Ignatius Wildcat in the draft? He said he would be a nice pickup late. No, Teddy Buchanan had a great career at Cal. I didn't realize he's an SI Wildcat. Man, I have to redo my mock draft and get Teddy Buchanan in there. If there's an SI Wildcat, especially a good player like that, I got to get him in there. We got this one from Red Sox. Okay, Larry, you're on vacation. Yeah, we got that one before. All right. should go to a strip club. Rick James, we need to draft O-line first, and then definitely till the fifth, and then wait till the fifth round for a wide receiver. I'll tell you a receiver you guys need to check out, Dante Thornton for Tennessee. He's 6'4", 215. He'd be very popular with JJ. He runs 4.30 and averaged like 25 yards of reception in his college career. Dante Thornton. That's my wide receiver, day 3 wide receiver hope. Space Cowboy says my Google translates broke with Aiyuk's IG post. It's pretty funny.
That's funny.
And we got this one from Boxing Fan ×4. No time to develop a new quarterback. The Super Bowl's in Levi's. Plus, this is a weak quarterback class. These guys would have gone in the mid to late rounds in last year's draft. Cam Ward's a star. There's no doubt in my mind. Cam Ward's a star. Shador's a dude. He's just a dude. Jackson Dart, not impressive to me. I agree, it's not a great class, but don't mark down Cam Ward because it's not a great class.
I'm not a Cam Ward guy. I think he's going to be like
Really?
Anthony Richardson 2.0. I just don't see it.
Really?
Yeah.
Raj, I'll tell you this. I think he's going to be Lamar.
Oh, wow. You think he's
Lamar? Yeah, I think he's Lamar Jackson. I think he's a better passing Lamar Jackson.
Wow. Okay.
I like him. I like him a lot.
Wow.
Baby Ray. I mean, I saw him live in Berkeley. I watched Miami a ton. It wasn't a vintage Miami team. The guy makes some mistakes, but I mean, nobody runs with the level of poise that Lamar Jackson runs with. Remember that game on Christmas a couple years ago where it was just like he ran and he was about to take hits. Now, you know what? I'm going to cut it back up inside because he's not really afraid of the defenders. And you get that vibe like he's like baiting you on the sideline. Like, am I in? Am I out? Am I in? Am I? Oh, I'm out. And you hit me and I get the penalty. You know what I mean? He plays that kind of game where he's like dares you to detonate on him. Well, Cam Ward does the same thing. It's crazy. Cam Ward runs to the sideline. He sees a defender running over to smoke him. He slows down and takes the hit. I mean, Cam is a tremendous, tremendous talent. And I just think there's something really special about Cam Ward. Baby Radiant says Niners need to have a great draft this year. No doubt. No doubt about that. Rob Ayman says, what gets Kyle fired is if there's signs that he's lost the locker room in the 2025 season. You know, it's so funny. Kyle Shanahan is so far away from losing the locker room. The locker room loves Kyle Shanahan. I mean, they really do. I mean, he's probably one of the most beloved guys. Why? Because these guys when I say these guys, I'm talking about the team, the players, and the coaches for that matter. Guys can handle bad news if you shoot them straight. You know what I mean? It's like, tell me something I don't want to hear, but be straight about it. Don't lie about it and snivel and backstab. And it's the man code. And the man code rules the day in pro sports, locker rooms and clubhouses. And Kyle Shanahan understands the man code. He played at University of Texas. He understands the code, man. You can deliver bad news to guys, but you got to be straight. You got to shoot them straight. You got to look them in the eye. You got to tell them the goddamn truth. You know what? You're not playing because you're no longer my best guy. I need you, but you're no longer my best guy, so I'm going with that guy. I mean, you know what? If they can't deal with it, they can't deal with it. You got to shoot guys straight, and he does. He does. And believe me, I'm in there. You guys know that. I talk to these players 2-3 times a week. Some of these guys I know off, you know, I know away from the microphone, away from the stadium. I've never had anybody say anything, but they have total respect for Kyle's offense and its ability to produce points. So he's not losing the locker room anytime soon, at least not from what I can tell. Boxing Fan ×4 says, I got more faith in Carson Beck bouncing back and Drew Aller developing into something. Not a big Drew Aller fan. Carson Beck I like a little bit more. But you know, you like them more than Cam Ward? I don't know. I mean, they both have bigger stature, that's for sure. Raj, couple other thoughts. Matt Mayoko says that the Niners could go after Keenan Allen or Robert Woods in free agency. Does either name intrigue you?
Robert Woods doesn't do much for me. He doesn't really move the needle. Keenan Allen about 3 years ago would have been, oh my God. I still like him. Good player, good veteran. If he could stay healthy and it's a cheap deal, yeah, take it. It's cool. But I guess I'd rather have Devontae than Keenan. But how much does Devontae want? But yeah, I wouldn't hate Keenan Allen. I love the guy.
Slick Rick on X says, and he's been right a lot recently. He really has. He's been right quite a bit. People will say, well, Krug, you've been covering the team for 20 years. Why are you quoting Slick Rick on social media? Because he's been right. He's been right. And he says the Niners are shopping Javon Hargrave, possibly for a day 3 pick. Yeah, maybe to Pittsburgh. There's a lot of talk that Pittsburgh wants to reacquire Javon Hargrave. I like the idea. Anybody that you can get, if somebody's willing to give you a day 3 pick, George Kittle was a day 3 pick. DJ Jones was a day 3 pick. Hafanga, JJ, Jawan Jennings, Brock Purdy. These guys were day 3 picks. So don't turn your nose at a day 3 pick. If Javon Hargrave will fetch the Niners a 6th or 7th round pick, great, move them on. How do you feel about Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan, Raj? He's a 3 technique. He didn't work out in Indy at the combine, but they did weigh him at 296 pounds. He played at 318. This guy's 24 pounds lighter than his playing weight for most of the year. He also has 32-inch arms, 12th percentile in arm length. Played 12 games this year. He made 45 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, only 3.5 sacks. He's got a nasty first step, a tremendous motor. He's got that wrestling background. But what do you think? Is this guy, a try-hard guy at the college level who doesn't have the upside to get appreciably better at the next level, and they should steer clear of him at 11? Or, heck, if he falls down to 8 or 9, should they use some draft capital and jump up and land a player that a lot of people think is the best defensive tackle in the entire draft and maybe a difference maker? What do you think?
He's a beast, man. I saw him play a lot. Michigan. I watched a lot of Michigan ball, so saw him a lot. Saw him live one time at a Michigan game. So good player. I'd love to have him. I don't know if the Niners should trade up. I think they should just stick at 11. If he falls to them and he's the best player available, absolutely take him. I think he'd be a great player for this defense, interior defense. We just talked about Hargrave. They're probably going to cut him post June 1st or trade him, like you said, according to Slick Rick. So yeah, that's a void they got to fill. They have to improve the interior D line, and I think Mason Graham would be it. There's a lot of great interior D line in this draft. So if they don't get him, there's other players they can get. But if he is available 11 and some of the top offensive linemen are off the board, some of the tackles, because there's some guys that really moved up in this board after the combine. If they're not there, yeah, I wouldn't hate Mason Graham. Now, if there's some really premium edge rushers that are at 11, I'd maybe go to the edge than the interior D line, but you can't go wrong with a guy like Mason Graham at 11. Man, you can't.
Is Kyle Juszczyk going to restructure his deal, or do you think he'll be released? I mean, he restructured it this last year. There's a lot of talk that he may restructure again. I'll say this, man. I saw Cam Scatabo in season, and then I saw him at the combine. 5'9", 220, Sac State kid, is from Rio Linda up in Sacramento. 39.5-inch vert. I saw what he was as a player. He's got a linebacker's mentality. Should the Niners move off of Juice and try to get Scatabo in the draft to replace him at, 5'9", 220? He's about 20 pounds less than Juice.
Can you imagine Cam Scatabo and CMC in this backfield together? Yes, Larry. The answer is absolutely yes. Now, I know fantasy owners would be pissed because you're not going to get much out of Cam being second, third option. But for the 49ers, that'd be absolutely amazing to put this man on this roster. Now, Kyle Juszczyk, what do I think is going to happen to him? I think he's going to be a cap casualty. Last year they restructured him. They might try to do the same this year. But one thing that you got to note about that cap or that restructure, he made a big stink about it. He went on and on. He had a whole interview. I think Mayoko asked him, how did he feel about, I felt disrespected and this. He went on and on and on about taking a pay cut. And there's like 4 fullbacks in the league, Larry. At some point, you got to do it. You got to do it. And I think the Niners are going to say, hey, look, dude, if you don't want this pay cut, you can go somewhere. And I'm sure one of the 3 other teams that have a fullback can sign you. And I think the Ravens might call him back. That's a team he's played for. So honestly, I think Kyle Juszczyk's going to be gone, man. It's time to cut ties. Again, what do we talk about this whole show? Cutting cash, getting younger, getting rid of players that are taking up cap space. Like I love Kyle Juszczyk. Been a great player, but you're paying $3-4 million for a guy that's not really producing much. You got to make some cuts here and there.
What about JP Mason? Is he coming back? I mean, or do you think he's moving on? I get this vibe that I mean, there's just either a lack of maturity there or whatever. But this guy, I mean, I hate to use the word pout, but this guy literally pouted like a kid, like a child late in the year. As soon as he spoke to the media and he got yelled at by the team because he divulged too much, and I forget exactly the scenario, but he basically spoke out of school and then he got chewed out for speaking out of school. And it's like, okay. So you said the wrong thing at the wrong time. Who the hell cares? This guy's 6'4", 6'3", 240 pounds. He averaged 5.2 a carry. But I get the sense that he's done with them and they're done with him, and they're going to wind up moving him for a draft choice. It wouldn't be a disaster, but he's a good player. But I mean, I've never seen a player go south emotionally in a football season the way that guy went south emotionally this year. It's like he had a great thing going, and then as soon as he spoke out of turn and got kind of pushback about it, he just wasn't the same guy. He was like a really bad attitude in the locker room as far as doing interviews. Every time he had to go to the podium, it was like pulling teeth. I mean, I felt like I was watching a high school kid going through a meltdown, watching the immaturity of JP Mason. I like his game, but he's not a pro as far as a mature pro. I'm moving him on, man. If you can give me anything, I'm moving him on. And I like him as a player, but there's all kinds of running backs in this draft. I don't care if you gave me a 7th round pick. I'll go take Montrell Johnson out of Florida or one of these guys that's going to be there, Cooley out of Liberty, or there's a bunch of great running backs in this draft that are going to be even undrafted. If they find a home for him, they ought to move him on, because there's something wrong there, man. There is something really wrong. You should not go south for weeks just because you spoke out of turn about some media thing. And it's like, it affected him, man. I mean, he was not the same person, it seemed like, after that.
Yeah, no, but at the end of the day, I mean, I like Mason, great player, but I think the writing's on the wall. There was a report today that there's been a lot of trade buzz around Mason, and he's a restricted free agent. So I feel like they'll probably see if a team gives them a tender, they won't match it, and then they'll get like draft compensation, 2nd, 3rd round pick, whatever the draft compensation is. I think that's the way they're going to go, kind of like a sign and trade type deal, like with the way a restricted free agent works. So I think they'll ultimately get a draft pick out of him. And you got to remember, as good as Jordan Mason was, he was an undrafted running back. The 49ers, they find undrafted running backs like it's going out of style. They've done it many years. Matt Breida is an example, et cetera, et cetera. They've done it before, Larry. And it's not that I don't like Mason, and they need running back depth, but they can get it in the draft. And hey, Cam Scatterbo, that's a guy. Like, maybe they go get him. You can add Scatterbo, you got Garendo, you got CMC. It's a pretty damn good room right there. So you'll get cheaper. Again, the big thing that Kyle Shanahan said is get younger, get cheaper. And, Mason's a good running back, but he proved he could probably start on another roster. Maybe he wants an opportunity to start. Maybe you're right. Maybe he got a little slighted the way he felt, because, yeah, CMC's back. There goes his role. But he proved himself in that time when he took over. That he can lead a team. So I think it's best for him to kind of, go somewhere, be a lead running back. But yeah, he did kind of fall off a little after that situation. But it is a weird situation. He's never really been in the spotlight. That was the first time he had to be like the lead dog, and maybe he just couldn't handle it. He's a young guy, and you're right. Maybe he needs some media training. But I think the Niners will get something in return, a draft pick. They'll use it for whatever, and they'll get another undrafted running back this year.
He's too big, too fast, too talented to get nothing in return. Boxing fan times forces. We need some guys for special teams. Kane Madrano. I saw Madrano run. He's not the UCLA linebacker. He really ran well. I mean, he looked like a DB. I would say this. The 49ers, I mean, nothing against you, boxing fan, but no more draft, no more specialty projects. Seriously. I mean, I'm going to lose my S and start dropping F-bombs left and right if this team does this again. You don't have a roof. You don't have a foundation. You need a number 2 quarterback. You need another running back. You need a new fullback. You need 2 tight ends. You need a speed receiver. You need 3 offensive linemen. You need 3 defensive linemen, maybe 5 defensive linemen. You need two linebackers who can run. You need a free safety. You need another corner. You need a kicker. All right. Those are your needs. So, I don't mind getting a special teams player or 2. But you know what? I mean, as far as after the draft, undrafted, but stop acting like you've got this pimped out mansion and that you just need to get, some window coverings. No, you have foundation issues. It's raining outside and you don't have a roof. You don't have walls. You don't have windows. You need to build with real stuff. Go draft starting caliber players. And, you don't have the luxury to draft special teamers right now. You know what I mean? You just don't. Do they need to be better on special teams? Yeah. But I mean, the 49ers have invested, Burks and all kinds of different guys in, Odom, guys, special teams, this and that. I mean, it's like, I think they need a better coordinator that got that, but draft offensive and defensive linemen, draft linebackers that can start, draft receivers that can start, draft DBs that can start. And if you have to play some of them on special teams, so be it. But do not go start drafting specialists. And, we needed a kicker, and that's why we took a kicker in the 4th round. No more draft picks on punters, kickers, and specialists. Draft core football players. You don't have enough of them. If you had enough of them, I'd say, hey, yeah, you don't have that many needs. Go find a great this or that. But you need more. That you need real football players, not just special teamers and guys who could play specialty roles. Last thought before we get out of here. There was a thing I was looking at just now on Coach Yak's Twitter. And he's got, Tariq Owens. Kawakami said that the Niners, I've heard they don't think they need to get better at wide receiver. I've heard they like the guys they got. I'll tell you the name I've heard, Tariq Owens. They think he was good on the practice squad. Raj, this makes me very nervous. If the 49ers think that they can win the Super Bowl saying goodbye to Aiyuk and Debo and returning Pearsall, Cowing, JJ, and Tariq Owens, they have the rudest of rude awakening coming. I don't even know how to explain that. It's not that I don't like those guys, but there's not a star in that bunch, man. There's not a single special player there. And you're really going to sit there and tell us that you don't need a receiver because you have Tariq Owens? Seriously, somebody's going to put their name behind that. I mean, I think he's got some upside potential. Don't get me wrong, but I am not earmarking starting spots for Tariq Owens.
Yeah, no. He's cool because his dad played for the team, Terrell Owens. He's not his dad. I mean, if you're sitting there and you're banking on Tariq Owens to be your starting quarterback, your starting wide receiver, and this big time, huge breakout season, you're going to have another 6-win season, Larry. So I get it. Some of these players are going to be hyped up. It's this type of this season. It's smoke season. Certain players are going to get, some hype and a little bit of backing behind them. But Tariq Owens is not going to be your wide receiver 2, 3. Maybe he might be wide receiver 5. He's even going to make the 53-man roster. I love him. practice squad at best, but Nepo Baby is not going to be your top wide receiver. They need to get serious. If you lose Debo and Aiyuk, come on, you need to get something better. Again, they'll get somebody. I'm sure they're going to get some free agent to help them out. Again, Brandon Ayuk's not going to be there for most of the season. So I will say this, Juwan Jennings is a star. Don't tell me that he's not a star, Larry. That was a little disrespectful to JJ. This guy proved
star. He's a star.
Juwan Jennings is a star.
Star.
Don't hate on the guy. He's a star. Absolutely.
The
guy played 15 games. He got tossed out his last game. He should have won. He should have had his first 1,000-yard season. The guy's a dog. Absolutely. Don't hate on JJ. But Tariq Owens, he's not a star.
Not a star. Yeah. One last super before we bolt for the door. We got this one from Anthony Catania. He says, thoughts on the linebacker from Fresno State. The kid is a missile. I haven't seen the linebacker from Fresno. I don't even know who he's talking about. Do you have any idea who he's talking about? Fresno linebacker?
I have to look him up.
I don't know. I'll have to look him up too. I'm looking at the list of linebackers that I have in front of me, and I don't see him. So, Anthony, I hate to say it, you have to give us a name, or we're not going to be able to get it today. But maybe we can look him up and see for tomorrow. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Kreuger Show. Check him out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. Thanks to Claw Daddy Arcades. You can follow him on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades and find a location near you. They've got a Claw Daddy Arcades opening up in Northern California in a short amount of time. And thanks to our good friends at LearnKey Upskill Academy. The show is sponsored by them. They're an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. So whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, or any other high demand field, they offer over 30 certification programs to help you take that next step in your career. So we are all about helping our audience become more and more skilled and make more and more money. They've been in business for 37 years. They currently have over 200,000 students, and they, every single year they place over hundreds of their graduates into well-paying, good paying jobs, career jobs. So if you're caught in between on your career and you're sitting there, I need more training, I need to get more skilled, LearnKey's Upskill Academy is tremendous. Check them out. The link is in the description for both of those companies. Thanks to them for sponsoring the Kreuger Show. Raj, have a great night. We're coming back to the Bay tomorrow. We appreciate you jumping on KMBR earlier tonight. That was very cool. It was awesome to hear you on the radio. Yeah. And give just once again, I mean, you're the hottest name in social media, but give people a shout out if they want to find you.
Yeah, check it out right there. RSF 49ers, all platforms. The vibes. We post whatever news is out there. But appreciate you, Larry, for having me on the show, for having me on KMBR. Sorry, my voice tonight. I know I wasn't 100%, but I tried to pull through for you guys. But yeah, let's hope next week I'm feeling better, because this being sick business is not good. So.
Folks, I think you got a glimpse into Raj. Raj is an effing gamer.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Careful.